early morning, I woke up, eyes wide and heart beating, to my father fondling my bikini area, under the covers, under my PJs, and beneath my underwear. I was in the 6th grade and my family and I had all been sleeping in the living room. It was movie night.
When talking about sexual assaults, we are talking about the sexual contact or behavior that occurs without exact consent of the victim. If you are younger than 18, you cannot consent. Though the offending person may make you feel such a way that you think telling someone will only make you appear ashamed and guilty, that is not true. And believing this is a way to keep you trapped in under their control. Sexual assault takes many forms. Many still believe it is brutally forced penetration or rape. Though there are cases where this happens, it is not always the case. It is important for people to know that there are many different forms of child sexual assault. Some examples may be attempt to touch you inappropriately or to rape, fondling or penetration of private areas, forcing or pressuring you to perform sexual acts, someone showing you their privates or watching you for their sexual pleasure, sexual contact between family members, and many more.
My parents would sleep in different bedrooms for a couple of years before divorcing. The more distant my parents got, the more time I was left alone with my father, and the sexual molestation happened less, but oral activities given to me as I slept happened more. I continued feeling confused, but more than that, angry with my body. By then, I was in the 8th grade.
In the United States, before their 18th birthday, 1 in every 7 girls will be sexually abused, and 1 in every 25 boys will be sexually abused. In California, there were as many as 42,364 reports made in 2015 for sexual abuse of minors alone. And every 8 minutes, Child Protective Services substantiates or finds evidence for a claim on child sexual abuse. For Madera County, in 2015, there were 86 child sexual assault cases with 97 offenders. 2016, there were 124 with 143 offenders. And in 2017, there were 121 child sexual assault cases with 126 offenders. The community can do its part by being aware of the risk factors or red flags, such as the physical indicators and behavioral indicators. These examples are difficulty in walking or sitting, torn, shredded, stained, or bloody underclothing, pain or itching in genital area, bruising or bleeding in external genitalia, in vaginal or anal areas, and in mouth or throat. For behavioral indicators, those examples are withdrawn, daydreaming, not present, or having poor peer relationships, unusual sexual behavior, inappropriate sexual behavior, or highly sophisticated knowledge of sexual topics, or delinquency, runaway, or engaging in risky behaviors. And any report of sexual assault should never be taken lightly. If you know of a friend or a family member that is going through some of the things we just talked about, know that it is never their fault. And we don't let our friends or family members be hurt, so we can go and tell a trusted adult. If you're a family member and just received a disclosure on this topic, remember to stay calm, show them love and support, not anger and madness. If they see you mad, the victim may think it is their fault. Your resources are your local 911, CPS, and victim advocacy. If in your line of work you come across children and you see a form of child sexual assault or a disclosure of one, it is your duty as a mandated reporter to report it. This does encompass also film developers, and computer specialists.
So I continued into 9th grade, and my dad kept pressuring me for sex. I didn't want to, and finally, once I started getting in trouble, it was his way to once again find his control over my body. Things like every time I had a boyfriend, every time I did something sexual with that boyfriend, every time I got a bad grade, every time I did something wrong, every time I was home late, every time he was mad, every time he was sad, every time something went wrong. It got to a point where right after he would buy me things to make himself not feel as bad about what he had done. To the world, we appeared like perfect father-daughter, and although I would cry right after he was done, the next day I was just like normal to the world. I painted a world I wanted to live in. I was numb, sadly never enjoying any accomplishments, but fortunately numb enough to be able to get through the uncomfortable things. Since the abuse and trauma, I now find healing. I started therapy and learned things about myself that I had forgotten. There are still times when I'm triggered and recall a painful lost memory, but now I know how to maintain my well-being. I found family and friends that became my support system, found peace in religion, and I also came to find myself and who I am.